Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about a NumPy. Yesterday we discussed about NumPy, how NumPy was used, where NumPy was used, and what are the functionalities of NumPy, how it helps machine learning engineers, data scientists, and everyone in helping out in their models, in other tasks such as playing important role in mathematical computations and everything. So today we are going to see how it works in action, and we are going to see how we can create an array, and how we can uh, write an array in one dimension, how we can create two dimension, three dimension arrays, and what are those, and what are the some of the examples of those arrays and everything. So to create this, as we discussed earlier, itself, NumPy is not an predefined package of Python, so we need to install it. It is a third-party library, so we already installed it. So that is the reason I am just directly importing it here. Import NumPy as np, and then we are going to create a basic array here. So how are you going to create an array? So what we did here, we imported NumPy library as np. So rather than calling NumPy every time, it will be better if we keep on calling it as np. So you can think it of as a shortcut. So that is one of the reason why we can put these aliases. So whenever you are using this NumPy, you can call it as np. So similarly here, np dot, there is a functionality to write data into an array. So for example, if you want to write an array, or if you want to create an array, NumPy array, then you need to mention what is the data in form of a list. Okay, so this is a syntax for it, and then within this you need to mention a list, and then once you write it, the array is going to be created here. You look into that basic array. Yeah, if you look into that basic array, you can see that this is an array. uh, the basic this is a basic array with in the list with these elements. Now this is how a basic array can be created. This is an one-dimensional array here for the information. Now this is an empty list. For example, if you want to create an array, an empty array, so how are we going to create it? For example, this is an empty array. You just need to mention, you shouldn't mention anything here, then it will become an empty array. Now as we discussed earlier itself, so we need, whenever we want to mention anything, we need to mention inside this square brackets, then this array will be configured. So if you can see this array empty, then you can see that this is an array of float type. By default, this will be a float type, and it is an empty array. We can see this. Now, if you want to check how many dimensions of are this array, for example, if you have created, you have given a basic list inside this array, and then there is data you have given, and checked what is exactly is that data type, then you understood that it is an array. Now if you want to check what is the dimensions of it, so yesterday in the class we discussed what is one dimension, two dimensions, and three dimensions. Whenever we are dealing with the data with only one dimension, then that those kind of data, like what exactly one dimension here, when we are dealing with data, it is nothing but a simple list. If you want to mention data in form of a simple list, then that is nothing but one dimension or a vector as well. Now if you want, there is a functionality to check what is the dimension of this array. I mean to say, what is the data type, whether this is one dimension, two dimension, or three dimension. How you are going to do? Dot, there is thing known as ndim, n dimension. So how many dimensions is it? You can see that this basic array is one dimension. Why? Because we only specified a simple list here. That is why a simple list can be considered as a one dimensional thing here. Now even an empty list, if you want to check what is the n dimension, what is the dimensions of it, dot ndim, then you are going to check. Yeah, then you can see here, this is in one dimension whenever you are understanding this. Now this is how you can create an empty array by simply specifying np.array, and you are not mentioning anything inside these square brackets. Then you got this empty array, and if you want to mention some data inside it in one dimension, then that is nothing but you mention the data in a simple list. That is how the one dimensional array is created. Now Going deep into it, if you want to understand what is the data type of the array, for example, look at this. For example, this is an empty array. If this empty array by default has a data type of float. If you want to check what is the data type, there is a functionality known as .dtype, which helps us you to give the data type of the array here. Now, getting back to one-dimensional empty element. So what is one-dimensional? We had discussed that one-dimensional is nothing but if you simply mention anything, if you are not mentioning anything in a simple list, then that is known as one dimension. Now here we are again defining an empty array, and you are trying to check. Look at this. Here you are simply defining an empty array and you are printing what is the array here. Okay, and you can see this is an empty array. And what is the dimension of it? It is one dimension. Why? Because it is a simple list. Even though you haven't mentioned anything, a simple list can be considered as a one dimension array.